Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human colony ship New Horizon, watching the alien vessel approach through the main view screen. The ship was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Its surface seemed to flow like liquid metal, and strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that made no sense to human eyes. "Incoming transmission, Captain," said Communications Officer Nancy Wells. Her voice was tight with nervousness. This was humanity's first real contact with an advanced alien race, and everyone on the bridge felt the weight of history pressing down on them. The alien that appeared on their screen was tall and thin, with skin that looked like living crystal. Ambassador Zethkar of the Velthari Empire spoke in perfect English, though his voice had a musical quality that seemed wrong coming from such a cold face. "Greetings, humans of the vessel New Horizon. I am Ambassador Zethkar. Your species has finally developed the ability to travel between stars. This is adequate progress for a young race." Captain Morrison felt his jaw clench at the tone. The alien was talking to them like they were children who had just learned to walk. "Thank you for meeting with us, Ambassador. We hope this can be the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." The alien's expression never changed, but something in his eyes suggested amusement. "Your species shows promise in basic engineering. We have decided to grant you these obsolete components from our decommissioned vessels. Perhaps you can fashion something useful from them." The cargo bay doors of the New Horizon groaned open as the alien transport ship began dumping what looked like scrap metal into their ship. Twisted pieces of hull plating, strange cylindrical objects that might have been engines and weapon systems that appeared to have been damaged in battles, crashed into neat piles on their deck. Chief Engineer Lisa Park watched through the security cameras as more and more alien junk filled their cargo bay. She had worked on starships for 15 years, ever since graduating from the Mars Technical Institute. She knew good equipment when she saw it, and she also knew junk. This was definitely junk by alien standards, but it was still centuries ahead of anything humanity had ever built. "They're testing us," she told Captain Morrison later as they walked through the cargo bay, stepping carefully around the piles of alien technology. "They want to see if we're smart enough to figure out how their stuff works, or if we'll just prove we're as primitive as they think we are." Morrison picked up a piece of hull plating that was about the size of a dinner table but weighed almost nothing. The metal felt warm to the touch and seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. "What do you think we can do with all this?" Lisa ran her hand along what looked like a weapon barrel. It was smooth as glass but felt stronger than any metal she had ever touched. "I don't know yet, Captain, but I have some ideas. Give me a few weeks to study this stuff and I'll tell you what's possible." Meanwhile, the Velthari fleet maintained a watchful presence at the edge of the solar system. Commander Kresheval stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the human vessel through long-range sensors. He had orders from the Empire to monitor human progress and report back on their capabilities. The humans were an interesting species, he had to admit. They had developed space travel faster than most races, and their ships showed clever engineering. But they were still primitive by galactic standards. The Empire expected them to build some kind of basic mining equipment or maybe a simple defense platform from the scrap they had been given. What the aliens did not know was how humans thought about problems. They did not know about human stubbornness or human pride, or the human habit of turning disadvantages into advantages. Back on Earth, Admiral Carl Hughes received the transmission from the New Horizon 3 days later. He sat in his office at Space Command Headquarters, reading the report for the third time. The aliens had given humanity a pile of their old junk and expected them to be grateful for it. Hughes was not grateful. He was angry. He called an emergency meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Within 6 hours, every senior military officer on Earth was sitting around the conference table in the Pentagon's most secure briefing room. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hughes said, standing at the head of the table, "we have a situation. The aliens think we're primitives. They've given us their garbage and expect us to say thank you." General Betty Clark, head of Space Force Operations, leaned forward. "What exactly did they give us, Admiral?" Hughes activated the holographic display in the center of the table. Images of the alien scrap filled the air above them. According to Chief Engineer Park's preliminary report, this is outdated alien military hardware, weapons, engines, hull materials, power systems. All of it centuries ahead of our current technology. So, what's the problem? Asked General Frank Lopez. Sounds like they just gave us a huge technological advantage. The problem, Hughes said, is that they think we're too stupid to use it properly. They're watching us, waiting to see if we build a mining rig or maybe a small space station. They want to know if we're worth treating as equals, or if we're just another primitive species they can push around. Dr. Amy Rodriguez, head of the Experimental Weapons Division, had been quiet during the briefing. Now she spoke up. What are you proposing, Admiral? Hughes smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. I'm proposing we show them exactly what humans can do when we're motivated. Dr. Rodriguez, you now have unlimited funding and complete authority over this project. I want you to take their junk and build something that will make them respect us. What kind of something? She asked. Something that will make them think twice about underestimating humanity ever again. The meeting broke up an hour later, but Dr. Rodriguez stayed behind. She studied the holographic images of the alien technology, her mind already working on possibilities. The aliens had given humanity the raw materials for something powerful. They just had to be smart enough to figure out what. 3 weeks later, construction began on a secret facility on the far side of the moon. The alien scrap was transported there in unmarked cargo ships, along with the best engineers and scientists humanity could find. The project had a simple code name, Fleet Killer. The aliens thought they had given humans garbage. They were about to learn that one species' trash could become another species' weapon of war. 6 months after the first meeting with the aliens, the secret facility on the far side of the moon was buzzing with activity. The place looked like organized chaos. Engineers in white coats crawled over pieces of alien technology, taking measurements and running tests. Sparks flew from welding stations where workers tried to cut through alien metal that seemed to resist every tool they had. Dr. Amy Rodriguez walked through the main construction bay, watching her teams work. She had never seen anything like this in her 20 years of weapons research. The alien technology was so far ahead of human science that it felt like magic. But magic could be understood, and once understood, it could be improved. Dr. Rodriguez, you need to see this, called Lieutenant Commander Ben Walsh from across the bay. He was standing next to what the aliens had called a fusion core, though it looked nothing like human fusion reactors. It was a smooth sphere, about the size of a basketball, made from the same flowing metal as the alien ships. Rodriguez walked over to where Walsh and his propulsion team were working. They had opened up 3 of the alien power cores and spread the parts across a work table. The inside of each core was filled with components that seemed to shift and change even as she watched them. What did you find, Ben? She asked. Walsh picked up a piece that looked like crystal but felt warm to the touch. These cores are designed to be safe. Really, really safe. The aliens built in so many safety systems that the cores can only produce about 30% of their potential power output. And you want to remove the safety systems? Rodriguez asked. Not remove, Walsh said with a grin. Bypass. Look at this. He activated a holographic display that showed the internal structure of the alien core. The safety limiters are connected here, here, and here. If we reroute the power flow around them and connect multiple cores in parallel, we can triple the power output. Rodriguez studied the display. What are the risks? If something goes wrong, the cores could overload and explode with the force of a small nuclear bomb, Walsh said cheerfully. But if it works, we'll have more power than any ship has ever had before. Across the bay, Dr. Kate Stevens was having her own breakthrough with the alien weapons. She had been studying the energy cannons for weeks, trying to understand how they worked. The aliens had designed them for long, slow bombardments of planetary targets. They were efficient, but not very powerful. The problem is focus, she explained, to her weapons team. The aliens spread the energy beam wide to cover large areas, but what if we concentrate all that energy into a narrow beam? Chief Weapons Engineer Tony Garcia looked skeptical. The focusing array isn't designed for that kind of concentration. The crystals might shatter under the stress. Stevens picked up a piece of alien crystal that was about the size of her thumb. Then we don't use their crystals. We make our own. She walked over to a workbench where she had been experimenting with different materials. "I've been testing various compounds. This one can handle 10 times more energy than the alien crystals." She placed her experimental crystal into a small test weapon and activated it. A beam of pure white energy shot out and burned a hole through a steel plate that was 6 inches thick. The hole was perfectly round and only about an inch wide. "Now, imagine that scaled up to the size of a ship's main gun," Stevens said. Meanwhile, in another section of the facility, Hull Design Team Leader Colonel Pete Johnson was completely rebuilding the alien ship designs. He had 30 years of military engineering experience, and he knew the difference between building for peace and building for war. "The aliens build their ships like luxury hotels," he told his team. "Big rooms, comfortable quarters, smooth curves, that look pretty but waste space. We're not building a hotel, we're building a weapon." The ship taking shape in the construction bay looked nothing like the flowing alien designs. It was angular and aggressive, with sharp edges and armor plating that overlapped like scales. Every inch of space was used for weapons, engines, or life support. There were no luxury quarters, no observation decks, no waste of any kind. "It's ugly," said hull engineer Maria Santos, looking at the half-finished ship. "Beautiful things don't win wars," Johnson replied. "Effective things do." The work continued around the clock. Teams of engineers worked in shifts, studying alien technology and finding ways to improve it. What the aliens had built for safety, humans modified for power. What the aliens had built for comfort, humans redesigned for efficiency. But it was intelligence analyst Rachel Brown who made the discovery that changed everything. She had been monitoring alien communications, using equipment captured from their first contact. What she learned made her run all the way to Dr. Rodriguez's office. "Doctor, we have a problem," Brown said, bursting through the door without knocking. "I've been listening to Velthari communications. They're not traitors, they're conquerors." Rodriguez looked up from the technical reports she had been reading. "What do you mean?" Brown activated a holographic display that showed star charts with dozens of solar systems marked in red. "These are all the systems where the Velthari have made first contact with primitive species. They always follow the same pattern. First, they give the species some old technology and watch to see what they do with it. If the species build something useful, the Velthari come back and take over their world. If they don't, the Velthari just ignore them." "How many species have they conquered this way?" Rodriguez asked. 47 that I can confirm. Maybe more." Brown pointed to Earth's position on the star chart. "We're next. They're planning to return in 3 months to see what we've built with their gift. If they like what they see, they'll demand we become part of their empire. If we refuse..." Rodriguez didn't need her to finish the sentence. The message was clear. Humanity had 3 months to build something that could defend Earth, or they would become slaves to an alien empire. She activated the facility's communication system. "All teams, this is Dr. Rodriguez. We just received new intelligence about alien intentions. I need everyone in the main bay in 10 minutes for an emergency briefing." As the teams gathered, Rodriguez looked at the half-finished ship in the construction bay. It was humanity's only hope, built from alien garbage and human determination. In 3 months, they would find out if it was enough. The race against time had begun. The USS Defiance launched from the hidden lunar facility on a cold Tuesday morning in March. The ship's hull was painted matte black to absorb sensor sweeps, making it nearly invisible against the darkness of space. Captain Roy Baker stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow smaller in the rear-view screen. He had fought in the Mars colonial wars and commanded 3 different starships, but he had never felt pressure like this before. "Final systems check. All stations," Baker ordered. His crew of 38 was the best humanity could offer. Every person on board had volunteered for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. "Weapon systems online," reported Chief Weapons Officer Lieutenant Susan Hayes. She had spent the last month learning how to operate the modified alien weapons. The focusing crystals they had built were 10 times more powerful than the original alien versions, but they were also completely untested in real combat. "Navigation ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Tim Brooks from his station. "Course plotted for the edge of the solar system. We should intercept the alien fleet in 6 hours." Engineering reports all systems green, came the voice of Chief Engineer, Danny Wright over the intercom. The fusion cores are running hot, but within acceptable limits. We've got more power than we know what to do with. Baker nodded and settled into his command chair. Take us out, Mr. Brooks. Let's go show these aliens what humans can do. Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, the Velthari fleet waited in perfect formation. 12 ships hung in space like jeweled daggers, their hulls reflecting the distant light of the sun. The massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion sat at the center of the formation, its bulk dwarfing the smaller escort vessels around it. Fleet Admiral Vex Thule stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying reports from his intelligence teams. The humans had been busy during the past 3 months. Their communications showed increased activity around the moon, and there were signs of construction on the far side of the satellite. What do we know about their project? He asked Commander Kesheral, his intelligence officer. Very little, Admiral, Kesheral replied. They have been careful to shield their activities from our sensors. However, based on the energy signatures we have detected, they appear to be building some kind of industrial facility. Most likely a mining station or perhaps a basic defense platform. Vexthal nodded. It was what he had expected. Primitive species always tried to build defenses when they realized they were being watched. The humans would have some crude weapons platform, maybe armed with nuclear missiles or basic energy weapons. It would be easily destroyed, and then the real negotiations could begin. Maintain position, he ordered. We will wait for them to reveal what they have built. Then we can properly assess their capabilities before making our offer of protection. The Velthari never suspected that humanity's creation was already hunting them. The Defiance approached the alien fleet using a route that took it through the asteroid belt beyond Mars. Captain Baker had learned from studying alien tactics during the past months. The Velthari expected enemies to approach directly, announcing themselves with long-range communications and formal challenges. They believed in honorable combat and civilized warfare. Humans believed in winning. Target acquired, Lieutenant, Hayes reported. The alien sensor ship is holding position 2 million kilometers from the main fleet. It's isolated and lightly armed. Baker studied the tactical display. The sensor ship was the fleet's eyes and ears. If they could destroy it quickly and quietly, the main fleet would be blind for crucial minutes. Range to target? 500,000 kilometers in closing, Brooks replied. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Hayes added. Baker felt his heart racing. This was it. The moment when humanity would find out if their modifications to alien technology actually worked in combat. All stations, prepare for attack. Fire on my command. The seconds crawled by like hours. Baker watched the range indicator count down. 400,000 kilometers, 300,000, 200,000. We're in range, Captain, Hayes reported. Fire. The modified alien weapon discharged with a sound like thunder. A beam of pure white energy lanced through space, covering the distance to the alien sensor ship in less than 2 seconds. The beam struck the ship's hull near the main sensor array and punched completely through the vessel like a spear through paper. The alien ship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment there was only an expanding cloud of debris and escaping atmosphere. Direct hit, Hayes reported, her voice filled with amazement. Target destroyed. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarms began, screaming. Sensor operator Thekvin stared at his displays in confusion. Admiral, we have lost contact with Scout Ship 7. Last telemetry showed a massive energy discharge. From where? Vexthal demanded. Unknown, Admiral. The energy signature doesn't match any known weapon system. Admiral Vexthal felt the first stirring of unease. Scan for unknown vessels. Full active sweep. But the Defiance was already moving, using the confusion to close the distance to the main fleet. Captain Baker had studied every report about alien tactics. The Velthari liked to fight in formation, supporting each other with overlapping fields of fire. They were disciplined and organized. They were also predictable. Next target, Baker ordered. The communications ship. The Defiance's second attack came from a completely different direction. The aliens were still looking for threats from the direction of the destroyed sensor ship when Hayes fired again. This time, the beam struck a communications vessel, cutting through its hull and destroying its main transmitter array. 2 ships down, Hayes reported. The fleet is trying to reorganize, but they're having trouble coordinating without their communications hub. Fleet Admiral Vexthal watched 2 more of his ships die in the next 10 minutes. Each attack came from a different direction, and each one was devastatingly effective. Whatever was attacking his fleet was using weapons that seemed impossible. The energy beams were far more powerful than anything in the Velthari arsenal. How are they doing this? He demanded. Those energy signatures match our own weapons, but at power levels that should be impossible. Admiral, called Weapons Officer Drakthol from his station. I'm detecting a small vessel moving through the asteroid field. It appears to be human in origin. Vexthal stared at the tactical display. The human ship was tiny compared to his dreadnought, barely 1/10 the size. But it had already destroyed 4 of his vessels, and it showed no signs of slowing down. How did they build something like that from the scrap we gave them? He whispered. The answer came in the form of another devastating attack. The human ship darted out from behind an asteroid, fired its terrible weapon, and disappeared again before the Velthari could return fire. Another escort ship died in a flash of white light. For the first time in his long military career, Fleet Admiral Vexthal began to understand that he was not the hunter in this engagement. He was the prey. The running battle lasted 6 days and covered the entire solar system. The Defiance used every trick in the human military handbook, turning the solar system itself into a weapon. Captain Baker led his small ship through asteroid fields where the larger alien vessels could not follow. He used the gravity of gas giants to accelerate past enemy ships before they could lock onto his position. He even hid in the shadow of Saturn's rings, using the ice and rock to block alien sensors. One by one, the Velthari ships fell to human ingenuity and modified alien weapons. The escort vessels died first, picked off during lightning-fast attacks that came from unexpected directions. Then the cruisers fell, their proud hulls torn apart by weapons built from their own discarded technology. By the 6th day, only the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion remained, floating alone in the darkness near Jupiter. Fleet Admiral Vexthal stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed the wreckage of his once mighty fleet scattered across the solar system. Status report, he ordered, though he already knew the answer would not be good. 11 ships destroyed, Admiral, reported his tactical officer. We have lost contact with all escort and support vessels. The human ship appears to be damaged, but still operational. Vexthal looked at the long-range sensors that showed the small human vessel hiding behind one of Jupiter's moons. The ship had taken hits during the last engagement, and its hull showed signs of damage, but it was still fighting, still hunting. How many crew members do you estimate are aboard that vessel? He asked. Based on its size, no more than 40. Beings, Admiral, possibly fewer. 40 humans had destroyed a fleet of 12 Velthari warships carrying over 3,000 crew members. Vexthal had been a fleet commander for 50 years, and he had never seen anything like it. Open a communication channel to the human vessel, he ordered. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Baker was studying damage reports when Lieutenant Hayes called out, "Captain, incoming transmission from the alien dreadnought. They want to talk." Baker looked around his bridge. The past 6 days had taken their toll on his crew. Everyone looked exhausted, and the ship itself was barely holding together. The modified fusion cores were running at dangerous levels, and the weapon systems were showing signs of strain from constant use. "Put them through," Baker said. Fleet Admiral Vexthal's image appeared on the main screen. The alien looked older than he had a week ago, and there was something in his crystalline features that Baker recognized. Respect. "I am Fleet Admiral Vexthal of the Velthari Empire," the alien said. "You have fought well, human. Better than I thought possible for such a primitive species." "We're not as primitive as you thought," Baker replied. "And we're not finished yet." Vexthal was quiet for a moment. "You have destroyed my fleet using weapons built from our own technology. This should not have been possible. Our engineers designed those systems. We understand their limitations." Your engineers designed them to be safe, Baker said. Our engineers designed them to win. You gave us your scrap, Baker continued, his voice growing harder. You thought we would build mining equipment or maybe a simple defense station. You thought we would be grateful for your garbage and beg to join your empire. We built something better. We built a fleet killer. The alien admiral nodded slowly. Yes, you did. And now you have proven that humanity is not the primitive species we believed you to be. What do you want? Baker looked at his crew. These people had risked everything to defend their homeworld. They had taken alien technology that was centuries beyond human science and made it better. They had fought impossible odds and won. We want you to leave our solar system and never come back, Baker said. We want you to tell your empire that Earth is off limits, and we want you to spread the word to every alien species out there that humans are not to be underestimated. Fleet Admiral Vexthul considered this for a long moment. His dreadnought still outgunned the small human ship, but he had learned not to underestimate these strange beings. They fought like nothing he had ever encountered, using tactics that went against every rule of civilized warfare. If I agree to these terms, what guarantee do I have that you will not attack my ship? You have my word as a human officer, Baker said. Leave peacefully, and you will not be harmed. But if you ever return to this system, we will be waiting. The alien admiral made a gesture that might have been a salute. Very well, Captain Baker. You have earned the right to dictate terms. We will leave your system and mark it as prohibited territory in our star charts. The communication ended, and the massive alien dreadnought began moving toward the edge of the solar system. Captain Baker watched it go, feeling a mixture of relief and exhaustion wash over him. Captain, Lieutenant Hayes said from her weapons, station. Should we escort them out of the system? Baker shook his head. Let them go. We've made our point. 3 months later, Dr. Amy Rodriguez stood in the main conference room at Space Command headquarters, briefing the Joint Chiefs of Staff on humanity's new position in the galaxy. The victory over the Velthari fleet had sent shockwaves through the alien community. Intelligence reports indicate that the Velthari have withdrawn all claims to human space, she said. More importantly, word of the battle has spread to other alien species. We're receiving requests for diplomatic contact from at least 7 different civilizations. Admiral Carl Hughes leaned back in his chair. What kind of requests? Trade agreements mostly. Technology exchanges. Some are offering military alliances. Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing star charts. It seems that defeating the Velthari has given us a reputation as a military power worth respecting. And the Defiance? Currently being refitted as the flagship of our new Space Force. Captain Baker has been promoted to Admiral and given command of our Interstellar Defense Initiative. We're building 12 more ships based on the Defiance. Design, all using improved versions of the alien technology. Hughes smiled. Any word from our alien friends? Ambassador Zethkar has requested a formal meeting to discuss mutual defense treaties. It seems the Velthari are suddenly very interested in being our allies rather than our masters. 6 months after that meeting, Admiral Jake Morrison of the Diplomatic Corps sat across from Ambassador Zethkar in the same conference room where humanity had first received the alien scrap. The alien looked nervous, his crystalline features showing signs of stress. The Galactic Trade Consortium wishes to offer humanity full membership with all associated rights and privileges, Zethkar said. We recognize that we may have underestimated your species' capabilities. Morrison kept his expression neutral. That's very generous. What changed your mind? The alien ambassador gestured to a piece of twisted metal that sat on Morrison's desk. It was a fragment from the original Velthari scrap, kept as a reminder of how far humanity had come. You took our garbage, Zethkar said quietly, and you built something that terrified the most powerful military force in this sector. You proved that human creativity and determination can overcome any technological disadvantage. Morrison picked up the piece of metal and turned it over in his hands. Yes, we did. And if anyone ever forgets that lesson, we'll be happy to remind them. The USS Defiance continued to patrol human space for years to come, a symbol of what humanity could accomplish when pushed to their limits. The ship that had been built from alien garbage became the foundation of Earth's first interstellar fleet. And whenever young officers asked how humanity earned its place among the stars, their commanders would tell them about the day humans turned trash into triumph and scrap into salvation.